This is from the Ingram angle, the lower Ingram. This is important. It says, but let's see, why is it so freaking hard to make a good COVID-19 model? It's probably not. Anyhow, by the number of people infected with the disease, in this case, we don't really have a reliable number of people being infected. So what they're saying is they don't have a denominator for this. You've got to have an accurate number of the people infected with the people that have died on the top. So basically, this will give you a percentage of the people that are being infected that have died. This will give you the percentage. And if you don't have an accurate number of the people that are infected over the people that are died, you're not going to get an accurate model of who is dying from the infections. If we don't have that, we just don't have an accurate base to tell you what's going on.
Really don't have a reliable count for the number of people infected, so to put it mathematically, we don't know the denominator.
Again, you have to have a denominator of the people that are infected. You have to have an accurate number. There's actually several things going on here. I'm no mathematical genius, but it's pretty simple. You have to have enough people tested, and you should have the number tested over the people that are infected, and you should break down who is getting infected. That will tell us really what's going on with the population. Then, from that number of infected individuals over the number of people tested, you know what percent is getting infected. Then you take that number of infected individuals over the number that are dying, and you can tell the percentage of death rate from infections. So really, we don't have an accurate model of how many, you have to have an accurate test, first of all. To make any of this possible, you have to have an accurate test. And there's big questions with that. But if we have an accurate test, then you should have thousands of people, tens of thousands of people being tested. And from those people being tested, you need a database of those that are infected after the test. But the problem with all this mathematical stuff is if you don't have a number on those that are infected over those that are dying, you can't get anything accurate. But the problem is you've got to start with a mass population and have those numbers tested. And then from those tested who get infected. But those that are already infected and you haven't tested, you can't really get an accurate database because they're already infected. But you take those that are already infected and those that are die from that infection, you can tell a percentage of deaths from the infections. But again, we don't have accurate numbers. This is a hard thing to do. Let's go on.
Now, we already know that some of the early data from the Imperial College, which the US and the UK was using to model its early numbers, was off by many factors.
So we're going to get past that because we just need to move on. We still don't know accurate numbers yet, but here is a stat that says under 30, 1%, 30 to 39, 3%, 40 to 49, 4%, 50 to 59, 8%, 60 to 69, 11%, 70 to 79, 16%, 80 and above, 18%. Now, if that is correct, the highest numbers of infection are people that are 50 years and older, but the very highest is 70 and above, from 16 to 18%. 16 above is fairly serious, but we're getting into double digits from 60 and above. They're all single digits below 60, if that's accurate.
Other age groups are in there as well. A renowned mathematician quoted in the study noted that the infection fatality ratio is a very important piece of data that will help to guide the response from various government and public health authorities worldwide. Again, what we're saying on the Ingram angle is the data matters. It matters to all of us. Real facts, real science. We shouldn't be referring to old data that has already been disproven, because that only ends up scaring people and then confusing a lot of people who actually deserve transparency and a full. My message to Pelosi and company with her little nasty asides over the weekend, that got a huge reaction last night. So it bears repeating tonight. We all hear a lot about a whole of government approach. Almost every day we hear whole of government. So I have a question. Why is Congress out of session? Do you know that Congress stayed in session during the Spanish flu and also during World War II? After all, we're told that this battle against COVID is a war, and the government's response to it has resulted in millions and millions of Americans losing their jobs and their dreams in an attempt.
So anyhow, they're out of session. I don't know why. And so the Spanish flu and the wars, they've been in session. I don't know. Pretty lax. Pretty lax. I'm going to end it here. Now, she also talks about the kids going back to school. I don't think they're going to be going back to school till this fall. I think that's going to be a done deal.
So all the graphs, they're informative and they're nice to see, but we have to know that parents are asking tonight, what numbers will it take so their kids can go back to school at some point? Maybe next month, the month after, maybe in the fall. What numbers will it take? And what numbers will it take for Americans to return to church? It's really important for a lot of Americans to be able to go to church every week. What about travel? What numbers will it take for us to be able to travel even to another state to see a relative? What about going back to work? That's assuming the job that someone had last month will even be there next month, the month after, or sometime in June.
So these are important questions, and I don't know what the answers are, but definitely Congress should be working, and until there's a spread in D.C., they should be working. There are representatives, there are leaders politically, they should be working. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. Close with her ending marks here. We do love our freedoms. We should be out. We should be planning when we're going to get back to work. What numbers does it take for us to get back to work to get this testing done? Remember that previous chart? I don't understand why people under 60 aren't tested and aren't being put back to work. I would. Those figures are accurate, I would.
Is what all three branches of government, this is what our founders understood, the brilliance of our founders. They understood that you needed all three branches working together, and they should be right now. Checks and balances, of course. We all love and value the doctors and all the healthcare professionals that are just heroes tonight. But we also love our freedom and our ability to support our families. So how likely is it that on April 25th, we might hear that, oh, we really need to shut down through the early part of June in order to bend the curve even more? We better get ready for that message earlier, not later.
Get out of this earlier, not later. I don't know why we're not doing it. It's a lack of leadership on the government to foresee that we need to be pushing to get back to work earlier.
We should discuss those metrics now, not in 3 weeks.
The mitigation steps that are on your 30-day plan, is that enough or is more needed? Have you been discussing that?
Well, we're going to find out. We hope it's enough. We hope it's enough. We hope we're at a level where we can say, let's go, because our country wants to get back to work. I could ask the doctors to answer that question.
Again, back to the level, to the numbers. Now, speaking of doctors, this is what Sanjay Gupta said today.
What we've been seeing in terms of the way that this information, these recommendations have been sort of rolled out, is that they're coming out somewhat piecemeal, right? First it was a couple of weeks, and now it's been extended another month. I had a chance to speak to Dr. Fauci today, interviewed him for our podcast, and I sort of asked him that question. I said, is this part of the strategy to slowly, ease the country into these existing and deepening or at least lengthening guidelines? And he sort of said, well, yeah, look, we don't want to shock people with this. We want to look at the data, but the data certainly is suggesting that, well, if this was likely to go on beyond April 30th.
Okay, did you hear that? beyond April 30th. You've heard of mission creep? We may be looking at shutdown creep. Shutting down the country until midsummer, that's what we're all hearing here, would invariably prevent a...
Again, the only thing that I can see that they're short on, and I'm going to contact my senators and say, why are we planning to get back to work? If we go back to this map, this stats here, let's go back here. This is probably the most important thing there is. It's probably the most important thing. Let's go back to this. This is probably the most important thing. Look at these stats. If these are accurate, then there's one thing we need to do. All these single-digit individuals, anybody, these haven't even got to 5%. So up to 50 years, all these people, there should be a mandatory testing of people of 50 years and younger, in my opinion. Mandatory testing right now as soon as possible. And if they prove that they're not infected, we should be getting back to work. 50 and above, that's the highest risk. Those are double digits. 60 and above are the highest digits. They're double digits. Let's get them tested. Later, these people need to be tested earlier and need to be going back to work. 60 and above need to be tested later and go from there. That's what I would do. So 60 and below need to be tested now, and they need to get back to work. That's what I would do if I was the president. That's what I'm going to recommend to my congressmen and my senators, and we're going to go from there. I'm going to end it here. This is serious business. We're going to get through this, but we need to get back to work. Good day.